Hello, Nadia.
Hello.
Very fine. Thank you. Welcome. Finally, we've been able to sort this out. Thank you for joining us this evening. How are you?
I'm very fine, thank you.
Ladies and
And
gentlemen, sorry, I missed that.
no, I'm saying I'm very fine, thank you. And you?
Thank you very much. I was a bit worried on how we had started, but thank you for joining us finally. And thank you for so many people who are already on. I can see a number of people. That's Kamilu Husseini. Thank you very much for joining us. You're saying nice. Thank you so much. Greetings to all. That's from Evanson Jomo. And then I also see somebody, Shaban Kamis, is saying, Miss Nadia, we see you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Nelly. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Let's Create Africa, where we talk about business, innovation, governance, and the SDGs. And today we are honored to have the former CAS and communication strategist, but that's continuous, not the former, Ms. Nadia Abdalla. How are you, ma'am? Could you please? I know it's proper for us to introduce each other, but I would like you to actually introduce yourself on this show. At least everybody has a chance to say who they are exactly.
so hi everyone. Well, I'm the former uh, Chief Administrative Secretary. For those who are maybe not from Kenya, it was or it is basically equivalent to being the you deputize the cabinet secretary, so like an assistant cabinet minister. And yeah, I don't think there's much about me other than I'm a communication strategist as well. I'm an advocate for young people, young women, and teenage girls. And I believe in diversity and inclusion. And I'm championing for millennial and Gen Z policy as we keep going on. So, yeah, in a nutshell.
Thank you so much, Nadia. I think somebody already is asking how exactly was how exactly was it for you being in government actually as a young person and
Yeah.
one of the youngest.
Actually, I was the youngest.
Oh,
29.
okay.
It was fantastic. Honestly, I am so grateful for the fact that I was given that opportunity in the former government. And it was perfect because I was in a ministry that was youthful, that was technologically savvy, and that was innovative. The people, honestly, it's not what people think when you're in government. It's great as long as you show people and you prove to people that you are of substance. Then everything goes on well. So it was great. Of course, there are a lot of stereotypes because I was young. I didn't have any governance background. Because I was a woman, I come from a marginalized community or a minority for that matter. But overall, it was great, and I learned a lot. And I had an opportunity to sit on tables and be in rooms where I would have never thought I would be.
Great. And just thinking, picking up from that, you sat on tables that you never thought you've been at. Before I forget, you told me something as I was calling you for this interview. I remember you told me so far you've not per se been interviewed for positions that you've basically earned in whichever respect that we could say. So how
Mm.
exactly do you ever get to such a position?
So actually, so for me, and I tell people this, my first proper job was first I served in Mombasa County for just 3 months as a technical officer, of course, a technical officer in the tourism department. But then my proper job after I finished my bachelor's and master's was now being in national government. And the reason I was saying that I didn't go for it, that the opportunity came to me, was because I just woke up one morning and that's how it was. But I think to validate that, number one, I was very much merit based on that because I had my education set. But other than that, I was very vocal. I was very vocal when it comes to things that I wanted to align with. I was very vocal about trying to help young women. In fact, I was more inclined on the young women and young girls, and then also youth. So I did a lot of things that I believe created the path for me. And that's the same thing that I keep doing now. I do things and I speak up because I feel like I have experience and it's good to share those experiences with people, rather than keeping it to yourself because of fear of other people being better than you are.
Great. And why does it matter that you speak up in such regard? I mean, there are many cases of where the gender card, race card has been played, even religion card, and especially even for you. How have you been able to navigate that, not only because of your previous appointment, but even in life generally?
Here's what I think. If I don't speak up, then who will? Like, I do believe I step onto spaces and I'm in rooms for a reason, not only to acquire that knowledge and then after that keep it to myself. Take an example in government. I served for 2 years and 11 months. No one else in my generation at that age was there. So then it was up to me to make sure that I make people understand. Um, um, just hold on 1 minute. Just
That's
hold on.
no,
Sorry.
no harm done. And this is how it feels for everybody when they get online. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. For those who didn't know, Let's Create Africa webinar covers topics around business, innovation, governance, and technology, and also the SDGs, because also the question is, what do the SDGs mean to you? I would like just to get to hear from other people as Nadia is coming back. She just got a quick emergency. What do the SDGs mean to you? I would like just you to put it down in your comments. I'll be able to read them and mention them as we continue. What do the SDGs mean
Hello?
to you? Hello, Nadia.
Hello?
Hello, yeah, Nadia.
Sorry, that was an emergency. Sorry. Family
No
emergency.
harm,
I'm so
no harm done. That's why
sorry.
online is very beautiful.
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
now where was I? Oh yeah. So importance of why you should speak. Again, number one, it's because you have the access, you have the opportunity. Why shouldn't I speak? I have to speak so that I can make young people, young women understand that spaces are there, opportunities are there, and if I can do it, they can also do it. When I was in government, it was very mandatory of me to make sure that young people understand that governance and government is achievable by anyone, to help them understand that their programs there for them, their activities for them. Before government, I wanted to champion because my goal was to make sure that I advocate for diversity and inclusion. I grew up not seeing people like myself in big spaces, in influential spaces. And I believed that that wasn't the only reason, or like there's a bigger reason as to why I'm on earth. And so I took it upon myself to make sure that I'm the voice of those who cannot voice out and be able to set an example for everyone. And that's why I'm very passionate. And I really tell people, you really have to make sure that if you have an opportunity, if you have a space, you have to actually go forward and do it and advocate. And honestly, if it's not me, then who?
Thank you very much for that. I see, Evanson, you picked up on what I was asking and talking about SDGs. So I'll ask again, ladies and gentlemen, please just write down and engage me as I ask the question, what do the SDGs mean to you? Not only as something written by the UN, but really as something that you as an African think about. What do the SDGs mean to you? What does achieving the SDGs mean to you? What does thinking about them, what does practicing them, and even being in entrepreneurship or otherwise, what do the SDGs mean to you? The SDGs are the Sustainable Development Goals. Nadia, somebody is asking, as a Muslim woman, you've really soared to the top, right?
Yeah.
Well, dependent to them, because to the top might be relative. um, how have you been able to raise your voice? Because it seems, according to the Muslim religion, women are not supposed to be not only that loud, but also that upfront. But again, that's their question, not mine. Don't throw
Yes.
stones, not
Yes.
mine.
So here's let me clear up something. In
Good.
fact, Islam really promotes, not let me not start with promotes. Islam really respects, recognizes, and puts women on a very high pedestal. Islam actually does not restrict or restrain women from getting their education, from doing what they can do to help their community, and from being business women and career women. That is
Mhm.
culture. The religion
Ah.
itself promotes that. The religion itself, in fact, you're told heaven lies under the feet of the mother. The mother is a woman. And so you can imagine. And so when culture now comes in between religion, people start to mix it up. All you're required to do as a Muslim woman is make sure you respect yourself, be mindful and respectful of others, and just watch your dressing. Now, for every person, every woman, every Muslim woman, they have a different way of interpreting that. And so for me, because of the access to education my family, my parents gave me, it empowered me to become the person I am today. I was allowed to speak out. I was allowed to go and get my education up until my master's level. And I was allowed to even take up the governance opportunity that I was given in the former government. And so you could have seen that even when I was in this position, I was cognizant of the fact that there are Muslim girls out there who feel out of place. And so, what I needed to do, and I don't consider myself a perfect Muslim, but
Mhm.
when it comes to merit, I needed to make sure I show young Muslim girls that they can access education, they can be innovative, they can be smart, and they can be able to do more than what culture convinces them otherwise. So it's culture that tends to get misinterpreted. And you see, I identify myself as a Pan African, as a young Pan African Muslim woman. So I'm Pan African, I'm Muslim, and I'm a woman. And I'm young. Those are four titles that one person has to carry.
Brilliant. And to carry them, you did carry them well, as majority of the people are commenting. So let me just read a comment here from Evanson. He says SDGs mean a lot. The only challenge is the implementation and gap analysis required around them. That means a lot of M&E, which is monitoring and evaluation, in terms of understanding where the gaps lie. To me, the SDGs are still something we're thinking about. And just drawing into the topic that is today, technology, innovation, and the future of Africa's youth. To you, Nadia, even minus any positions you've held, what do the SDGs mean to you?
To me, I mean, they mean what they say, sustainable development goals. I tell people that we cannot come up with any ideas, any solutions, if we are not looking at it on a sustainable angle. Even as little as getting your education. When you're getting your education, the way you take in that education, the way you understand it, and the way you move it forward, you have to look at it on in a sustainable way. How are you going to now use your education to not only get yourself a job, but to also create something beyond that job, which is impact? So, sustainable development goals are impact driven. Sustainable development goals, to me, are a source of building something bigger. And as you said, there are things that we are still building on. It's a progressive. You see, sustainable development goals are progressive ways to actually do things that we have now seen on an alternative way. And so, for
Mhm.
me, I believe a lot of people don't understand sustainable development goals. They don't understand the agenda. They don't understand what they can do. But because of how the pressure is everywhere and everyone is pairing SDGs with their projects and their program, people are not taking time out to understand, is this SDG something viable for me, my community, and what I believe in? And so that is
Mhm.
why I tell people, one of the things you have to do, you have to understand what is your sole purpose of trying to adapt to a certain SDG. Is your purpose to lock in funding? Is your purpose to bring impact, or is your purpose to educate? Once you answer this question, then you are able to now go to the next level, which is to now create a sustainable language. Because in order for you to achieve the sustainable development goals, you have to understand the language that you're using. You cannot just act and say, oh, I'm young, I'm partnering this and this, and putting it together. No, it has a lot of things. Once you understand the language, what are the economic implications? If I do this, the community or the target group I'm looking at, what economic achievements are you getting financially? How am I going? So it's a lot. I think what we need to do, or what is needed, is more, what's the word? It's more trainings on the understanding, because the sustainable development goals agenda is good, it's perfect, but a lot of people still don't understand it.
Hmm. Is it good for Africa, and what are the advantages of it being adopted in Africa and Kenya also as a country?
um I do believe that some of the SDGs could be pan-African driven, because you see, I tell people, you see, the Pan-African reach, our whole African continent, we might have the same problems, we might have the same issues, but how we solve these differentiates from one space to another, from the north to the south, to the east to the west, to central. They vary. And so I do believe, or what could have been done, or what should be done moving forward, is when you're adapting to an SDG, yes, it is on on a macro space, but
Mhm.
can we now make it very African? And that's why I believe in African curated solutions for African people, because the goal might, or the agenda might be one, but what are the African solutions that are being written and drawn and being put together so that Africans can benefit? Because what is important is the Africanism in us. Are we really benefiting from them? And if we are, or the Africans who are also part of these SDGs, what are they doing to make sure the SDGs are very Afrocentric?
Aha. And maybe that's the question to you, Nadia. Do you think the SDGs are benefiting us?
Like I said, you see, I can't say no and I can't say yes. Yeah, I can't
Okay.
say that, because there are some that are benefiting. I think they're beneficial. I just think we need to now recalibrate them into the African language, into the African impact, into the African reach. It, because there are some that have really benefited. You're talking about education, you're talking
Hmm.
about the urgency to saving our oceans and our rivers, you know, you're talking about sustainable living, you're talking about smart cities. I mean, look at Kenya. We are already building a silicon savannah. Our technology and our internet consumption is very high, and our internet is actually not expensive, you know. You're talking about education and access to education. So it varies. So I cannot come here and say they are not benefiting, or I can say they are benefiting, because it's not a cast in stone kind of answer. It's
Hmm.
beyond that.
Oh, great. Nadia, as you were getting into the system, the government itself, I'm pretty sure you had challenges because of your age and experience also, because I would determine you haven't experienced everything.
Mm.
How did you overcome such challenges, especially being looked down upon, not only because of you're a woman, but just basically because the argument would be, but she's not had experience, and especially in a ministry that you are in. How did you overcome such challenges?
So to be honest, and you know, I don't like lying to people. Me, I didn't have any experience in national government. And I'll be very honest, I was a typical African or Kenyan youth. What
Hmm.
that means is you're just a youth trying to make it, trying to finish your education, trying to secure a job, on and off, right? So I was that. I didn't pay attention to what government was doing. I didn't pay attention to what government was implementing. So when I was had the opportunity to now get into it, the first time, and I say this a lot, the first time I just broke down and cried, and I got some imposter syndrome that came into me, because I was like, first of all, I don't deserve to be here. Secondly, I don't know anything, because I was like, there's so many other youth leaders out there who are so well versed when it comes to government and everything. So why me? But then I gave myself 24 hours to do that. So I cried, I sulked, I felt bad for 24 hours. After 24 hours, I dusted myself off and I made sure I understand everything, the policies, reread the constitution again, reread the mandate of the former government, partook in different meetings that were there to make sure that I understand and that I deliver. Because when I was there, everybody was looking at me. There's the older generation that is looking at you in the sense that, these young people, they're just gonna fail. So I was like, I'm not about to fail. Then you have the young people who are now looking at you and thinking, oh, this young girl, she's there, she's not married, who brought her in there, blah, blah, blah. So that was my first challenge, the stereotype that was around. The stereotype was she's from Mombasa, she's a Swahili girl. They don't even speak good English. They don't even know what it is. Education is low, blah, 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 all these things. That was the first challenge that I had to come across. And how I got over that challenge is I have a very strong family and I have a very strong group of friends. These people help me understand that I can do it and I deserve it. The second challenge that I had, which again became easier to tackle, was how people perceived me within the government. Because I'm young, because I don't have experience, everybody, I think people are not expecting how it turned out. So when I would sometimes speak at events or in boardrooms, people would be like, "Who trained you how to talk?" And I'm just like, "Nah, just myself. Like I work hard." But how I managed to maneuver that, and this is something that is important that I say, is that the people who actually were around me, you're talking about the minister, you're talking about the directors, the CEOs, you're talking about the office staff, you're talking about my secretary. These people helped me integrate into the government. So on one side, there was perception, but the immediate people who I was dealing with made sure that I understood, made sure that I got over that challenge. Now, the third challenge, of course, is being African, being in an African setting, being a Muslim. I'm young, I'm not married, and I'm a woman. Somehow, in our African society, being like married, especially when you hold a leadership position, shows a sense of groundedness and a sense of strength. So, a lot of people will look at you as a leader and think if she is unable to even get a husband or she isn't unable to run a family, what is she telling 50 million people in this country? What is she telling us? So there was that, but I didn't see it as a challenge. I saw it as an opportunity to show people that I can still do it, because again, marriage is out of, for those who believe in the different faiths, marriage is out of our hands.
Mhm.
It's something that God or any higher power you believe in that brings it in order. And so that's a challenge and a stereotype I think we have to really get over. And then, of course, the other challenge was learning the language of the partners, the developing partners, learning the language of the government, learning the language of the people, the private sector. Because at the end of the day, government creates an ecosystem for things to move from one side to another. But beyond that ecosystem, we have to work hard within ourselves to get the different fundings, to get the different opportunities. Now, for someone like me who was just a social entrepreneur, was working on just support from different people and not making any profits or whatever, I had to learn how to speak to diplomats. Okay, for diplomats, I knew how to speak because I'm a trained cultural diplomat.
Mhm.
So I had to learn how to speak with developing partners. I had how to learn to speak with presidents, with ministers, other ministers, with members of parliament, with senators. I had to learn all these things. And so there are challenges, but then there were opportunities for me to become the person that I am today.
Brilliant. Moving on from that, tell us about your opinion on technology, not only in Africa, but also in Kenya as a country. And for the youths, how do they embrace it? How do they leverage on it to do better, to optimize on whatever they have? What has been your experience also around that, please?
Um, when we talk about technology, and right now with the current government pushing it as digital economy, and innovation, I think number one, we first of all have to do away with this. How can young people embrace technology? Let's be honest, because technology is something that is ongoing, on growing. COVID happened, we got hit, we had to adapt to new ways of embracing technology. Digital transformation right now is like an enigma everywhere. You're talking about African centric technological solutions. You're talking about artificial intelligence. You're talking about African solutions to the digital economy. You're talking about the different policies that are there. So personally, I think when I talk about Kenya first, I think we are at a very great place. You have so many tech summits, so many energy summits that are happening in Kenya. Our internet is so cheap as compared to other African countries, and think even as compared to the world. And our internet, I can tell you because I've also traveled a lot, we have the best internet connectivity. So what needs to happen now is young people need to stop asking questions of how, and we need to start equipping ourselves with knowledge on where. Where are we making ourselves better? And where are we taking our digital transformative ideas and information, and where are we putting them and literally incorporating them to our own life? Because you talk about these days, most businesses are running online. Medium and small enterprises are selling their products and services online. Yes, we have to be cognizant of the fact that being a developing country, we still have challenges, when it comes to connectivity. And one of the biggest challenge when we were in government, when I was in government, was that the geographical angle of Kenya. There are some areas in Kenya, the internet doesn't get to them, not because the government hasn't put in place policies, but because of the weather, because of the geographical challenges that are there. So you find that almost 80 to 90% of internet coverage is in Kenya. But you find that there are some places, because of strong winds, because of the desert, because of other things that affect those areas, then they become less fortunate to get it. Now, when we look on an African scale, I think technology is really transforming. You're looking at a continent that is really technological Afrocentric. Our technology is really being designed to fit the African person. Artificial intelligence is growing day by day. Technology consumption is on the rise. And you find a lot of African techies who are working tirelessly to create solutions and absorption for the African people. And personally, I can say in the next few years, I think we are going to be the leading continent that is actually drawing up ideas for the rest of the globe to follow.
Oh, brilliant. You've actually segued into my next point. How does it drive innovation? And how do you think innovation is driven by technology in Africa and Kenya as a whole?
So, I tell people innovation is just creativity, a creative solution into finding easy ways to solving a problem. That's innovation. Now, how is technology doing that? It's really fastening the process, number one. It's making accessibility become very cheap, because the more innovative you are, the creative you are, the less time you spend on something and the less amount of money you spend on it. Innovation is driving technology into spaces where we never thought it would be at. Right now, even when you look at people trying to, HR specialists who are trying to pick um, employees for their companies,
Mhm.
most of them, yes, they look at your credential and everything, but you're being asked, how innovative are you with the different solutions that are there? So innovation is basically, it's simple. A lot of people find innovation very, very complicated, and that's because of the lack of knowledge. You see, what we need to do, yeah, we need to have capacity building programs, to make Africans or to make Kenyans understand what is innovation, what's the digital economy, how does it work for us, where does it work, so that we can ease up the anxiety on being left out of this phenomena. Because you find that a lot of people, middle class going up, they have access, they're attending summits, they're talking to people, they're doing everything. But then you have the other group that feels left out and they feel like, oh, maybe technology is not for us, but technology is for everyone as long as you have access to it. And you have, like in Kenya, you have companies, you have like communication authority that is doing its best when it comes to connecting the internet everywhere. You have the data protection commission that is doing their best to make sure that cybersecurity and your information is protected. You have the media in Kenya right now, Media Council, together with all the other media agencies that are transforming their ways in which they're sending out news and adapting to the digital economy. You have the energy sector that is using their energy together with technology to create innovative ways to help entrepreneurs earn money. And so it's a lot. Innovation can be anywhere, and as Benson says, innovation and and creativity cannot be separated, because it's one and the same thing.
Brilliant. Actually, let me read a few comments here, starting with Benson. Benson Mwangi, who says, I think when we map the SDG we want to address, we are able to localize the solutions problems in our specific society. Then Benson Kanye also says, sure, innovation and creativity cannot be separated. I think which is something you've alluded to also. And then let me see who else. Julius Koech says, actually on point. So far, so good. I'm liking the conversation and how it's going. Somebody is also asking, Nadia, what have been the challenges of trying to catch up as a country in regard to the technology changes and innovation that are happening around the continent, but especially the ones affecting Africa as a whole? Case in point, Senegal having shut down its internet at some point last year. And then also this year, Orange Telecom has gone into another country and opened an innovation center, which has been in Anglophone, in Francophone Africa. How can we, as a country, do our best to catch up?
Um, I think this is where a government, private, what's the word?
PPP?
Partnership. Yeah.
Okay.
Public and private
Private
partnership needs
partnership.
to come.
Yes.
Yes,
Mhm.
because as I said, one of the biggest mandate of the government is to create a conducive ecosystem so that private sector, other CSOs and other organizations are able to work and are able to give what the people need. And so I think for us, if we want to catch up, we need to really advance in our P2P. And then we also need to encourage and invest more in capacity building, and not only capacity building programs just to equip you with knowledge, but no, have capacity building programs. Then partner with people like Huawei. I remember we partnered with Huawei. They have a digital truck that goes everywhere. And so if we can partner with it and use the education and the programs and everything that they have and then bring it together, that's good. As a government, if we try and ease in the different policies or really help private sector understand and see where are the key ways in which they can come in and work together, I think that would be great. Because one thing people need to understand, in order for us to catch up, in order for us to be there, in order for us to grow, you have to work with government. Whether the policies to you or the rules to you feel hard or not, you have to find a way in which you can work together with the government so that you can promote and so that you can incur what it is that is there.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I see majority of people actually asking, oh, we've been joined by somebody from Nigeria. That's Ayubu. Ah, brilliant. And somebody else from Botswana. Wow, this is wonderful. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining today. Somebody's asking the challenges and opportunities for ICT, which I think some you've alluded to. But in line with that, what is the future of Africa's youth in riding on this, or better yet, leveraging on all this?
The future of African youth is big. I am so passionate about it. I think you can see me lighting up. One thing we need to do as African youth, we need to work together as one. I don't believe in individualistic mentality. I'm Kenyan, you're Botswanan, you're Nigerian, you're Ghanaian. Can we work together? Can we use what is in Kenya and then take what is in Botswana and have an intergeneration, not intergenerational, but interchange of ideas, then adapt it from one side to another. And I'm not talking about government, I'm talking about young people themselves. Right now, technology has made it so easy for us to reach out to someone who's in North Africa or in South Africa, and you're able to work with them. You're able to take a flight and go there. If not, you're able to do virtual messaging. And so I believe what we need to do as African youth, number one, we have to be cognizant of the fact that government is there. You have to be respectful, whether you agree or disagree about government. That's one thing I've learned, because it will be there. You have to work with it. That's number one. So once you understand that, then number two, let's not just stop blaming the government. Yes, they have a role to play, but as young people, can we come together and create solutions that are Afrocentric, solutions that are, are well curated? Let's promote partnership, partnership in terms of young people and private sector, in terms of young people and public sector. And then I also think one of the things that can help young people in Africa thrive is we need to speak up in a very critical way. You see, yes, we need to call out on what is not happening. But at the same time, can we also promote private youth partnership, private companies? Can we, as youths, when a private company comes to you and says they have a CSR they want to do, or say they have a program they want to do, can you go through it critically and say, I feel like this is going to expose me as a young people and exploit me? Can you now change it and design it in a way that it can actually benefit me? I think we now need to be our own advocates. We need to stop accepting very little from what is being expected from us, because young Africans have so much value in them. But because we are all fighting for this one piece of uh, partnership and one piece of sponsorship, we forget to actually look at our value. So a company will come and offer you $4,000 and you feel like that is it, I can't get more. But you forget they give you $4,000 and what they take away from you is $2.5 million and above. And so you need to, as African youth, we need to understand that the value lies within us. The resources are on our side. Technology, we are curating it into an African setup. We have the human resource. Africa has the biggest human resource. Kenya, one of our biggest exports is human resource, and from young people. You're looking at Chat GPT that was created by young people in Kenya, yet they were paid less than $2. So why can't we not come together and be our own voices and start refusing people making us scramble for one piece of loaf? Instead, let's make sure they create more than one.
Brilliant, brilliant. Wow, that's that's full. Greetings from Cynthia Mbari, the relationship and partnerships manager for World International. She says hi, and you're doing an amazing job. She's happy about that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Cynthia, for tuning in. Monica, Monica Muhoya is asking, I believe, what's the future of frontiers for women and girls who are often underrepresented in STEM? I love your passion, Nadia. That was an additional comment.
What's the future of frontiers for women and girls who are often underrepresented in STEM? Uh, so I know this answer will be cliche, but I want to start with the cliche answer, then go on. I think the future is bright once we, as women in STEM as well, come together and put in more efforts than what we are being allowed to put in. That's what I'm going to say. The reason I say allow is because I've been in these spaces and I have seen less women in these spaces, but I feel like there's a hesitation to like really keep pushing the STEM agenda, especially to get to the underrepresented women and girls. And that's because if I can say it out, I feel like it's because of the comfortability that is there, because oh, she's the only, we need to start doing away with the only female high achiever in STEM, or the only CEO in Africa who's a woman. So you see, if we keep being okay with that, then I think it becomes very, very much pinning down, and then it creates a ripple effect towards the underrepresented. So I think what we need to do is people like myself, like you, Monica, and others, if we can come out and just have candid conversations, like have an ecosystem where we are talking about the challenges and the struggles of underrepresented women and girls in STEM, then from that ecosystem, then let's pick out different ideas and see what we can come together. Just the other weekend, I was invited by her name is Maureen Mwaniki. She's the head of governance and partnership in Huawei, Kenya. And she brought together women in STEM, and I was supposed to be part of it, and went to Kirinyaga to speak to about, I think, 140 young girls, outside of Nairobi, about STEM, about who they are, sharing what they do in technology and stuff. So I think underrepresented girls and women want to see, we are visualists. So we want to see frontiers out there who say to them, you are capable of doing it. Like I shied away from STEM subjects because I thought STEM subjects are not for girls. And also I'm not good in maths, but that's not the point. A win is a win. The most important thing is that they kind of I kind of pulled away because I didn't see women. I saw more women in PR and journalism and in diplomacy, and so I wanted to do that. So I think, Monica, we need more frontiers out there. We need to have an ecosystem that is healthy. We need to show examples, and then we need to encourage STEM subjects to be taken up by girls and make STEM cool.
Makes them cool. Thank you.
I think there's a very great lady. I just want to say hi to her.
That's
It's
okay.
Miss
That's okay.
Elizabeth Mweni. She just said, "Great to see you, Nadia. Passion for people, innovation, and technology." Yeah, I just wanted to say that she's such an amazing woman, and I just wanted to give her a shout out. So you can continue. There's so many comments I can't read them.
It's okay, understandable. They're all online. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. For those who are joining us from YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, thank you so much. And LinkedIn also, thank you so much for joining us. I see a comment from Charles Mwai who says, now we are tailing of the youth involvement when it comes to technological advancement and self-growth. I believe the main problem is associated with the availability of resources to achieve the same successfully and motivation towards the same. Actually, Nadia, how do you motivate? And I know this might come a bit off, but how do you motivate the youth to take advantage of the upcoming opportunities? Number one, and I know how you might put it. So let's start with that first.
Ati, how do you motivate the youth?
Exactly, that is the question.
Do you need motivation when you are sitting in a place where you feel like things are not right? That's motivation itself. I mean, how do I get up every morning and do something and sit in front of a camera, yet I am unemployed and I had to hand over my job in front of 50 million people? How? It's because I wake up every morning and I know that I have to do something, because haba na haba hujaza kibaba. What that means is, slowly, slowly, something will come up. And so I do believe, yes, on one side, we have to, have mentors, we have to have coaches, we have to have people who hold our hands. But on the other side, if motivation doesn't come from you, if where you are at in your life doesn't motivate you to be better, to not give up and keep going on, then nobody else can do it for you. It's a personal commitment you have to make to yourself every day. Even when you come back home and you're crying and you feel like things are against you, you still have to motivate yourself to keep going on. That's number one. That's the realest thing I can tell you. But number two, it's by participating in things that will contribute to increase in opportunity. What I mean is, if you are let's say, an example is, let's vote in the right leaders. As a young person, don't complain about lack of opportunity if you didn't take part in the voting system. Whether your vote counted or not, that doesn't matter. What matters is you went out there and put in that. Number three, you just have to make sure that you always are prepared for whatever it is that is going to find you. People talk about luck, but luck only meets hardworking and disciplined people. Nobody is just lucky. You have to put in the time, you have to put in the effort, you have to put in the work, even on days that you don't feel like it. And if you feel you can't do it alone, no man is an island. Go out there and just get to everyone and ask for help.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Somebody's saying, and I won't say their name at the moment, Nadia, you come from privilege. So why would we have the same opportunity? Maybe is that something you'd like to clarify?
First of all, I'd like to tell people not to assume things. Yeah, I might not come from a place of struggle, but then I don't think it's fair for people to say I might be privileged enough to have gone to a good school. Yes. I might be privileged enough to have gone out of the country. Yes. But I feel like opportunities I think opportunities are everywhere, whether it's a place where you've not accessed or a place you've accessed. There are people who have come from less privileged places and they have achieved even more than what I have achieved. There are people who've come from less privileged places and they have been picked and they have been identified and they have been glorified and they have grown to where they are. So I think it's not about, yes, privilege can play a part, but I feel like we should do away with this whole thing of why do you think we would have the same? There are people who actually are laureate winners, people who have had global awards, and yet their father or their mother couldn't even afford to give them school uniform. So for me, and I believe if I would have just sat down because I have a master's and I have a bachelor's and I went to a school, I wouldn't be where I am. I am where I am because of my hard work, because of my advocacy, and because I'm so unapologetic. And I'm not going to shy away from the fact that I was privileged enough to actually say, oh, I shouldn't talk about this side of my life. No, I I never chose to be born or to be where I was born. I come from a family that was poor, but my family worked hard and were able to get to a certain place. And I'm going to continue that and break generational chains that are there. And so I think even everyone else should do the same.
Thank you. Somebody from Startinev, one of our partner organizations, says such a relevant conversation. Innovation, the place of innovation, such an important role in how the future and ecosystem shapes up. Thank you very much for that, Nadia. As we continue and just going back to what most people know you for, which is being the former CAS. Before even that happened, where were you? Who are you? Because nobody seems to know where you are or what you are about until all of a sudden you're in the limelight as the youngest CAS. So kindly tell us.
That's not a nice thing to say, but I say that government just gave me a platform and I was recognized nationally, continentally, and globally. But I was Nadia, anyone who had access to or interest with what I was doing. I was Nadia, born and raised in Mombasa, very, very strong about women and youth matters. But I studied abroad. I lived in Malaysia for almost 6 years. Then I lived in Berlin for almost 3 years. And the only actually, but I used to come back home and I used to work with small groups of women when it comes to matters to do with sexual based violence, gender based violence, mental health. And I use my technology, I use my internet presence actually to get information out there. Now, after that, there was an opportunity to join a TV show. It was called Miss President, which was by Media Focus, supported by the Canadian government and the EU. And it was a show to show Kenyans that a woman can be president one day in Kenya. The main goal of me joining that show was to let people know who I was and what I was doing in the coast. My goal wasn't to win. I didn't think I would, I didn't want to win. I just needed a platform higher. But what happened was I was eliminated at top 18, but I got a platform to even speak more. So a lot of people knew me as Miss President, Miss President, Miss President. And then when I got appointed, that's when I became bigger. But also because of the stereotypes that were there, I made sure that people would know who I am by engaging in all media channels, whether it was traditional media or it was social media, whether it was partnership, whether it was private, public, global, Pan-African. I engaged in everything because I did believe that you have to leave a footprint wherever you are, because it's very important. And so this is the girl who I am today. I was just fortunate enough to have a government that gave me a platform to be known on a much larger scale.
Good. Brilliant. Um,
Yes.
I see a question from Benson Mwangi asking, how can the government, your opinion, now that you're actually out of the
Yeah.
government, but
Yes.
now from this side of the citizens, how can the government leverage on technology to ensure that the affirmative funds in Kenya, e.g., Youth Fund, NGAF, and other affirmative programs reach to the intended beneficiaries effectively? And this, I also think, might be also the big Huduma Fund. Sorry, yes,
You mean Hustler Fund?
Hustler Fund. Thank you.
So speaking as Nadia, I need to put it out there. Like, I'm
Yes,
just
please.
giving an opinion as a citizen of Kenya. Um, I think what government needs to do is it needs to engage in a lot of um, online activities that will promote, number one, the knowledge. It has to be an online knowledge based activity, the knowledge about these funds. I had an opportunity to spearhead some of these funds and even work with some others. And you could tell that there was a reluctance in tapping onto these funds because of the idea that there was a lot of rules that were expected, a lot of things. But when I looked at it, because even I had a bias, but when I looked at it, it's just a misconception. And so what needs to happen, I think these funds, or if the government could, maybe could invest. I'm big at mentoring, and I'm big at coming up with trainings, more trainings. So affirmative trainings for these funds in places physically, but also online. You see, a lot of times these days, people need online engagement. So if they can have online engagements for these funds, it could be great. But also creating a much more easy, accessible online approach, because we could say, how can government leverage on these funds with technology? But maybe they're not I don't know yet, but maybe there are no tools and means and ways into accessing. One thing I can say is the Hustler Fund is easily accessible, because it's just, you take your phone and you just, put in the numbers and key in your ID, and one thing leads to another and you have access to it. So if we can have Youth Fund maybe come up with a package that is like that. If we can have NGAF come up with a package, You have the new one that is Talanta Hela Fund, that is for creatives, and I do believe sports. And I do believe they are going to make it very technologically centric. Then I think it will be easy. And so I think I might be wrong or right, but I do believe the government has in place plans because of their digital economic strategic plan. They have plans to incorporate technology in their funds. So what we have to do is just wait and see.
Just wait and see. Nadia,
Yes.
we have just a few minutes to wrap this up. There's been a lot of criticism in regard to how you led your teams and how you even think as a person. And I think that also comes with age. Some have criticized you for being too trusting of your team, especially when you are in government, and not providing enough direction and guidance. Additionally, some have suggested that your youth also came into the way, with you again being too trusting and naive in decision making. How did you overcome such a challenge? And even how did you choose to become better? Because, as you just mentioned, you actually had a moment of imposter syndrome. 24 hours or not, you had it. So, how did you manage to overcome this? How did you
First,
upskill?
yeah, these criticism, by the way, to me are very interesting, and I didn't know about them. And the reason I didn't know about them is because I had one job to do, and it was to help the president actualize his mandate. I did not listen to a lot of the naysays because they were not in my position, and I was the one who had that position. Now, I want people to be realistic. I had 2 years only in government, 2 years and 11 months to be exact. Not even an, how do I say it? Not even a scientist can achieve anything in 2 years. Was I too trusting? I don't think so. Was I naive? I don't think so. I was just a young person who had an opportunity to do what she could do in the specific period of time. Did I achieve what I needed to achieve? Oh, yes, I did. In that period of time, I did. If I had more time, I would have done more. Did I create impact? I do believe I did create impact as well. And so, what I'm trying to say is that there was no way I was going to make 55 million people, or let's say 35 million people, happy with the way I led. Because again, I was just deputizing the cabinet minister. I was actually taking orders and I was helping both the minister and the president actualize their mandate. And so, imposter syndrome or not, I did what I did. I served my time. If I get called and if God plans to call me again and I'm given more time, I will take it and take up the challenge and do some things different than others. And if I'm not called and God wants me to go in a different direction, I will take that challenge and do what I got to do. The most important thing is I was very authentic in my leadership and I was very accessible and I was very determined to do what I could in the short period of time I was given.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nadia, for that. If it comes as an encouragement, actually, somebody really mentions Nadia Abdalla has highly successful in role and has been praised for her leadership either way, and that's encouraging that at least some people, majority or not, have really seen you very successful in your role and you are praised for your leadership, and even just being able to give your insights and expertise, making your team think outside the box, because that was also one of the things that you are very well known for. As we wrap this up, ladies and gentlemen, I say thank you because of joining us. Nadia, as we wrap up, how can the youth take advantage of the African continental free trade area? Because that's one thing also they still don't know how to manage. Just like the SDGs, it's still a vague conversation, a high level conversation. How could you tell the youth, no matter the privilege or lack thereof, to take advantage of this?
I think the first way or the first step in how the youth can take advantage is by understanding what the African free trade is all about. Before jumping the gun, take time, understand it, read the policies, see how you can benefit from it. Number two, what you can do is you can then now really look through the opportunities. If you are a product based person, look at the opportunities that are there and see what you can sell between one country to another if you're a service based person as well, and then take advantage of it. Also, attend most of their forums online, and if you can, even physically, and try to be inclined to it and participate.
And thank you so much, Nadia. Any last words for the general population, not just the youth?
The last word is, be as authentic as possible. Criticism or not, that is how life is. If you want to be a leader, be the best leader you can be. If you want to be a technological guru, be that best. Or any other, if you want to be a farmer, a teacher, whatever it is, do your best at it and always strive to be good and give what you can to those close to you.
Thank you so much, Nadia. Thank you so
You're welcome.
much, Nadia.
You're welcome.
Nadia Ahmed Abdalla has been, or rather, was one of the youngest former state officers serving as the Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of ICT Innovation and Youth Affairs in Kenya. She is also a public relations practitioner, currently a communications and policy specialist and cultural diplomat with vast experience in communication strategy, campaign management, and girl child stroke women advocacy. Nadia, somebody actually says this girl does everything. How does she do everything? So somebody else is saying, I need to call myself to a meeting and understand what do I do with my life. That is actually very interesting. You're very motivating and very inspirational, and Nadia. So thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen,
Thank
this
you.
brings us to an end of Let's Create Africa, the webinar, where we talk about business innovation, governance, and technology, but also making sure that we highlight the SDGs and what part we play in them and what they play in us, not only as African youth, but also as Kenyan youth. I thank some of our partners, Startinev, for joining us in this conversation and helping us make this happen. I say thank you to Let's Create Africa. I say thank you to KYR Africa. That's Know Your Rights Africa, the future of work, decent jobs for youth, SOCO, and sustainable goals for being part of this show. I thank everybody who has been able to join us today. Thank you so much for making this happen. And thank you for giving Nadia an interesting moment while doing this. Without further ado, we come to an end of this session and we say thank you. God bless. Till the next Thursday, may you take care and have a good night. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good night.